Hi everybody, my name is Vicky Hanna. I'm going to be your trainer doing this pre-recording for the unit CHCCDE019, working in community groups. Just stay with me and we'll start putting together the full unit and the recording. I'm setting my background to start with because we're going to be working as a group and teams. I want you to have this reflection point. This is a solo project for you. However, you'll be working really closely with others throughout this process. You'll be going wider out into your community, talking to stakeholders or doing some research and finding what might be an unmet need in your local area. How to put together a project that will fill that need, or what if there's gaps in services that are already out there, and what will your project and program be able to do to fill that gap, better represent people in the community who at the moment do not have that diversity, equity, or inclusivity. Fabulous. So I'm going to walk you through slides. You will get a copy of slides. You will also get a learner's guide, which will have some activities along the way. These slides that I'm doing the recording with are modified simply for the recording. You will get the full suite without those changes. But for the purpose of this, I wanted to just walk you through. So this unit is covered over 3 weeks. And during this time, if you attend live classes, then you will work with your peers in class in breakout rooms and have some of those discussions about this unit on how you're going to work within a community development framework, the CHCCDE019 unit. So a big part of this learning is actually about creating the program and then doing the presentation of your program as well to your peers and getting some feedback, having some questions asked of you. What went well? Did you do SWOT analysis and identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? What area did you decide to pitch your program to, and what target group were you aiming for? What's the work that you really want to do in the community sector? Or if you're already working in the sector, how do we think about improving and making sure that we are sustainable, that our programs keep going so that we can continue to work in the sector? So if we bring it right back to basics, people are employed in the community sector for the reasons behind government deciding, or government of the day, deciding that this is what the community are coming to us and saying they need. If the government don't fund it, then there's no funding that goes to organisations to employ staff. It really is that simple. So you may find that you're brand new to the sector and you're wondering how you're going to get your start in your career, but you might already be an existing worker and wondering if you've got longevity in the sector. Everything will always come down to you as a person, you as your own walking, talking business card. But when you're going to be speaking in this space, it will be, do you have an understanding of what the needs are of the target group that the organisation that you're going to work for is meeting? So in non-profit, non-government organisations, funding is usually for 3 years, unless it's a pilot project. Part of the assessment with this is you're going to pitch a pilot project. It may be a one-off program and you get your feedback from your community. This went really well. We'd love to see more of that. How are you going to get those sources of funding? How are you going to get the community behind you to be able to say, this was a gap and this will fill that gap, or this will build on a service, or we have unmet needs in our community because we might be rural, remote, or regional. What is it that's out there? Why does the government decide to fund some projects and not others? So for this unit, you're going to do a deep dive into working together collaboratively, finding out what's needed in your local government area, what is happening on a national level, and maybe even on an international level. We'll explore what the United Nations calls a sustainable organisation and a program, and there's 17 pillars around that. I want you to think about who you're going to work with. When you do your stakeholder engagement, you can do that with peers, or you can apply this in your local area. So I've had some people who have done this course where they've come from a background where they were, really a very active graffiti artist. And then they came through that period of their life and decided that they wanted young people to be able to express themselves, but in a way that didn't put them on the radar, doing an unlawful activity. So they took that talent that they had, they spoke to their local government area, they pitched their idea to them, but they took with them what the needs were. They went into the schools, they spoke to some of the art departments, they spoke to some of the alternate education programs, they went and spoke to other service agencies and said, what would it look like if we could run a program? Here is the target group of the ages that I would like to do. Here is what we're going to need to make this happen. You'll do everything. You'll do the budget. You'll work out everything that you're going to need for that. And you're going to pitch it to your line manager. So for this, I guess for the model that we're working with on this unit is you will put all of this together, hypothetically. It won't be a program that you are going to run unless this is something where it really speaks to you and you go, I've always wanted to do something like this. I'm going to use this unit and these assessments to actually build the framework. To develop something out in the community for the target group that I'm interested. So this is a core unit. This sits in community services, mental health, AOD, and it sits in youth work as well. So it can be anybody in the target group that you're interested in doing and select. And we give you a list of different groups that you would like to. It could be mental health, it could be environment, it could be youth. So it's or housing, homelessness. It's up to you which one that you decide to pick and which way you would like to go. For your assessment, you do need to apply the learnings that we give you in this recording, in your learner's guide, and the full suite of slides. You will work with your peers in class and talk to them about that. You may work on your own, but you do have to go out to other people and ask those questions. You don't have to do that face-to-face. You can do that virtually by doing some research in websites online, looking at some of those YouTubes and TEDx talks. Make sure that you make it Australian, because this is going to be an Australian qualification for you. Have a look at what else did other people do? How did they get started? How did they pitch this to be an idea that they could put out there for other people in the community who otherwise may not have had a voice? And you will be that voice for them and provide a platform for them to be able to have access to do that. So stay with me. I'm going to talk you through the slides, not all of them. There's about 100. You do that in your own time. But for the purpose of the pre-recording, I wanted to give you the underpinning knowledge and the key learnings. And those of you who come to class will have those discussions. But those of you who cannot make it to class, I wanted to make sure that I had this sector discussion with you. Everyone at Hayter that's a trainer is a sector worker. So I'm going to bring that sector experience into this recording for you, what this is like, how we start with the seed of an idea, how most of us at Hayter are working in something that is funded by the government of the day, and where some of us even have other activities that we do outside of our roles of Hayter and even outside of our roles in our positions that we have. So as a sector worker for almost 30 years, this is my 30th year, I've worked across education, housing, homelessness, AOD, mental health. I work in the court systems, and I run a residential program for young people, and also training for young people who can't seem to be able to get traction in the mainstream sector. So as a court officer, I often work with people who are victim survivors of domestic family violence, and I work in the children's court. And from time to time, I'll be asked to come in by Centrelink or legal aid, even go in as an advocate in the child safety space for people who may not be able to find their voice and navigate their way through agencies or getting their voice heard in spaces. So for you, whatever door you go in to work in the community sector with whatever target group that is your qualification, whether it's community services, mental health, AOD, youth work, I want you to know that every single service has a framework. Every single funding grant is backed by a development framework where the community had an identified need or an unmet need, and there were gaps in the services. So at the time of recording this, it is an election year in Australia. It's 2025. And this is the time where we see a lot of activity around lobbyists and peak bodies who always want to jump in there and say, listen, over here in our postcode, in our electorate, here are the gaps that we have. And we want to be able to go to a representative and have them listen, really hear, to understand, so that your community is not forgotten. But these decisions are made at a top level. So you'll have state or territory funding. But that money comes not from the state itself. It actually comes from the Commonwealth government in our structure in Australia. You will have people who work for the public service sector. It might be contract work, relief work. Someone might be on maternity leave. That puts you into that framework. They are the overarching workers who work to legislation of a government agency. So they have a different framework that they work to. In the community sector, which is what your qualification is, you will find that they will do an application and they will come up with a program. So there's quite a few, like Shark Tank and Love Bites, Man in the Mirror, Are You Okay? NAIDOC Week. There's lots of different programs. When you think about it, they were all an idea. How do we launch that and get it started? How do we get it to stay in place rather than a one-off thing? So for 27 years, I've been involved in Battle of the Bands. And that got handed over by another person who did that for 15 years before me. So there's a program that's been around for a really long time. I do it because it brings a lot of young people together, and I work in that youth sector. However, I also have to, from a community level, talk to stakeholders, get the location, have sponsors back us up, be able to liaise and facilitate to help young people bring a guest band to come into town, get all of those prizes happening, and try and get a studio time so that someone can launch their first recording. That's part of what we do, and we do that every year. And we work on that program for about 6 months. We have a lead-in time, we have a break, but we have people who are out there in the community who have an interest in that particular area. I can't sing and I can't play an instrument. I think I can sing sometimes, but I won't do that for you in class in our recording. But I am more interested in what the gap is for the servers, and having a safe, supported, supervised activity for young people in our community helps connect them with expressive terms, gives them something to work together. But they're more than just that one night when they get up there and they perform. They do rehearsals, they do their planning, and they practice. So in effect, you are going to get your band together. You're going to put this idea together. You're going to practice what that looks like, and you're going to come up with an idea that you identify will meet a need in your community that's not currently there, or you will tag it to another one and strengthen that as well. So let's have a look at what we've got. I'll do our acknowledgement to country first, because Haida acknowledges our First Nation people. So in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where we work, study and live, and pay our respects to elders past, present and future. At Haida Institute of Education, we celebrate the stories, culture and traditions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders of all communities who also work and live on this land. I'd like to extend the acknowledgement out to any of our learners who identify as First Nation or Torres Strait Island people, whether you are watching this recording or you come to our classes. So a little bit of housekeeping. This is a unit that doesn't usually trigger people, but we never know. So I want you to just go very gently in this space. If there's a topic that comes up in my slides as I walk you through that, just step away from your studies for a while and have some reflection around that. If you ever get stuck and you're still thinking about a topic or something that comes up in a class discussion, even though everything we talk about is private and confidential, sometimes we do need to share that. Just de-identify and just say, you know, came up in class, rather than this person who lives in New South Wales said this about that. Don't sit in that space. We don't sit in that space when we're working with our colleagues in our organisation. I'm only in a small org where I have 28 staff, and we never talk about our clients based on their name. We only ever say, look, I'm working with a young male who's 17. I think I'd like to bring it into our weekly meeting and discuss that. Or I'm really keen to get this project off the ground. I think what I'd like to do is grab a couple from our team and see if we can form an alliance with a couple of other organisations who we share. Our clients might only stay with us for accommodation or get their counselling, but there might be an alternate education where we could go and talk to them there, reach some other young people as well, get their input and feedback. You might do that in your group, in your qualification. Like I said, it's a core unit. So think about who your target group is. So have a think about taking breaks away. We're a virtual college, so we don't have emergency procedures, but we do need to have that balance and well-being with our studies. I'll go over the unit outline and the structure and what the assessment requirements are, and when you have a due date as well. I'll walk you through some of those. I am going to fast track some of the slides because you have those. You don't need me to be talking you throughout this, but I want to bring out the key learnings for you to guide you, to give you an overview of what this unit is all about, what you can expect in your classes, and then what you need to do to be able to be competent in your assessment work. So in the very first week of the 3 weeks that you'll be doing this unit, you'll talk about what is the meaning of the word community. And that could be your street, your neighbourhood. That could be a group that you belong to. That could be going to your local shop and bumping into people who are familiar faces, or going to shops that you frequent and you get to know the staff. That's part of what community can mean. Our connection, so that someone recognises you, or you can be part of something bigger and greater than yourself. Development in community framework is about identifying what might be missing in your community, or how you can support something that exists and build on that to make sure that it stays in your community if it is serving the community well. What are the principles and the values needed to develop a community program? And what are the different approaches that we can apply to be able to get an idea from just a seed out to something that people start to recognise, and it happens on an annual basis as well. And it doesn't have to be big and groundbreaking. It can be something small, something as simple as a go-to emergency card. That might be what's really useful, how you can develop your community. It may be a welcome to community where new people who are new to your area, you might work with other community organisations and your local council and say, we're going to do a welcome morning tea, and we'll hold that monthly, so that if there is people that are new, that there will be a welcome up on the council's website, and then the community organisations take turns and speak about that. So that's a coordinated effort. So when you start and come to a new community, you've got to find somewhere to live, you've got to find a new doctor, maybe schools. There's so many other things, place where you might get your car service, the best place to go and buy certain things to do on the weekend. So rather than people try and find that in isolation, community development and a program that has a framework around that will be, let's be the one-stop space for new people so that they can come and just have a morning tea and meet and greet, ask questions, and some of the local councillors may attend that. That happens in my community. I wonder what happens in your community. So community to me means I live 15 minutes from just about anywhere I need to go. As my children were small and growing up, I could go to the school and know that I was working in partnership with the education team that was around my kids. It's being able to speak to my doctor about the needs. It's being able to go to a local counsellor in my area, maybe going to my state member, and maybe even going to my federal member, where I talk to them about what I'm hearing, what I think could happen. It's about feeling that there is no wrong door for us to go into. Not everybody is able to do that, but if you live somewhere long enough and you are active and you have a plan to be part of that, then you can be connected to your community. Some people don't want to, and that's okay, but most communities are driven by volunteers and community sector workers. So our clients may want that. We don't have to be someone that does that, but we need to know what's available in our community as we're working with our clients, being able to refer them on to that, have a good understanding of who's who in the zoo, who can we refer our clients to. Things like men's sheds and other clubs and groups like that that do amazing work, especially in communities where people may not have family and friends around them when they're new, or their life has changed, and with that change means they've lost connection as well. This will be your work that you do as a support worker. It isn't always where someone comes in with a really clear problem to work through and have someone walk beside. It could be that you're that point of information. And if you start to hear that there's a gap in your community, what do you do with that? Where do you give that information over? What can you do to be the ones that fill that gap in your community? That's what this whole unit is about. So for me, it's a group of people, it's a social structure, it might be institutions like a club. For some people, it's their faith. It can be different cultural institutions, education institutions. And we come to class every week, we have a culture. You're part of the community of learners at Hader. And every class has its connections. Some people work together, some people work on their own, but know how to access those supports. So there's no pressure to form as part of a group. all the introverts will definitely say that is not what I want to do, but the extroverts might go, yeah, I'm fully energized when I work with other people. So I love that side of it. Not right or wrong, it's knowing what works for us and then also being able to come of service. It may need to be something different for our clients that we work with. And when we're putting out a project, we need to pitch to everybody, try and think of everybody's needs rather than just through our own lens. It could give people a sense of place and build some very long-standing, enduring relationships with others. Someone who will know if you're not around or you didn't turn up to a project or something along those lines. But they'll miss you if you're not there. So your reflections will be going through your learning guide. This is independent for you. Your trainer, facilitator in your class may bring that forward, or they'll give you a scenario and get straight into the assessment work and bring the assessment into your classes. This is something that you can do in your own time. At Hader, we have self-paced structured learning. If you want to move and progress through this unit in your own pace, your learner's guide will get you there. So community development, when we're working together, you can see there's a circle. So monthly, I attend in our community a storyteller circle. And that can be, each of us will take one client with us in the work that we're doing. And then that way, the voice of our clients is sitting in that space. And we might have someone who will share their story safely in that circle. And it puts insight over that. It also shows that other people who turn up for that they're not isolated, that they're not alone in that space. It's structured with other workers and we get our feedback directly from our clients. So if I go to a group, because time is fairly precious for me, even if I'm planning to relax, and I hope you do those things for your well-being as you become a sector worker. If you're not already in the sector, you would be knowing that your self-care is very important. But when I go to something like this, if it says, look, we're going to do a youth forum, if there is no young person there, I don't continue to attend because I don't want to be the voice unless young people have said, here is what I want you to say on my behalf. So my values base is nothing about me without me. I don't presume that I know what young people want. I go to young people and ask them, what is it that you would like at the moment? And would you like to come along to our monthly storyteller circle? They always have great cake. But I don't see how we could do a storyteller circle. If it's professional development or community of practice, that also can be a great circle. But for community development, we must have members from our community contributing. For your assessment, you will need to go and ask people in the community and you will know them. You go, hey, I'm doing some study. I just wanted to ask you, I've got these 3 questions here and I'd really love to get your feedback. Can I ask you what they are? And you give me your ideas. Now, it's not new for you, but it could be new for them. So don't rush that process, just lead into that like we would anything else. We do preparation, we would do some planning. We would think about, I can ask a question, but what am I going to do with the answer? And am I asking the right question to get the correct data? Am I surveying the right people to be able to make sure that I've done this? When you're creating a program, you have to provide evidence of, we went to the community and we asked 275 people in this app target group, and here are the questions, our baseline, and then you'll start to capture that data. Someone will bring it all together and you'll see a pattern emerge. It may even be that you decide to do something and yet that isn't really what the community want. It's our perception of what we think the community wants and needs. So we need to be listening to be heard, listening to understand, listening to be able to just check in and say, have I got this right? Is this what you were thinking of? What have I missed? And that's where you're going to go with your assessment work here. You're going to back it up with data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics rather than just go, oh, I've always wanted to run one of these. Someone did a knitting program, which was great, and had lots of males and females attending that. They had one of the major stores donate all the wool, the crochet hooks and the needles, and they had some older people who came in who had that skill. That was a community development program. And it was amazing. So a group of people do the trauma teddies for the hospital. That started from a group of people who came together, who enjoyed knitting and having a bit of a chat. But now it's actually a program with a development front. And it's quite important in some of the public hospital spaces. Does that happen in your community? There may even be projects that are there that you're not aware of until you need them. But you do need them as a worker. Even if you don't access it, your clients might really benefit from this. So that's why we do this unit for you and also for your clients to be able to help them out in the wider community. Because when we're working with our clients, we're not giving advice, we're not fixing problems, we're not quickly thinking as they're talking what a solution is to that. We're walking beside them, we're listening to understand, and we have compassionate inquiry. So it's a very respectful space. So it can be different community-based work in that it may be that there's an unmet need that identifies as a problem by the community, but not by your organisation. It could be that you've got strategies that are planned and you're going to put them into an action and do that together. You might divide up, delegate. Well, we're really good at this. We've got time with that. We've got people in our team who can do this. Work to your strengths. And if you've never done anything like this before, but your interest is there, then go and be beside someone who does that work and be mentored. Have a buddy system as well, because just that compassionate inquiry and curiosity is how you're going to learn more. We're not done. We're not done learning. We're never done growing in this space. Our legislation changes, the funding changes. People find out that their role isn't going to continue because they're at the end of their 3 years funding, and the government of the day is not going to continue prioritising that work. So workers can get a little bit anxious around that. But if you're developing your skills and you're throwing yourself into each of the activities, whether you're studying or whether you're out there working, you're going in with knowledge and skills, and that's what will keep you hired and sustained in your employment, regardless of the project and program that's funded that you go and join. So think of yourself as that collective wisdom that you capture from your classes. Each of your assessments are designed specifically for you as a community sector worker, and the sector have helped design this. Every one of your facilitators is a sector worker at Hayter Institute, which is quite unique. That's part of a program and business model that Hayter have to make sure that the person who is talking to you in your classes at night or in your recording spent the day working frontline in the community, delivering the work. So your strategies might be that you're lobbying different representatives, council. I might have an idea, but I need to get people on board. If I'm going to do that, I have to be really clear on what I'm asking for. So first of all, I will present a problem that needs solving, a gap or an unmet need. And then I'm going to come up with what might be a way that we could do that, and then who we will form together. We may just need their endorsement so that they will get behind it and do sponsorship in kind. We'll give you the Civic Centre. We'll give you one of our local halls. We will allow you to go and run something at one of the parks. There's legislation, workplace health and safety in everything that we do. So we need to be able to collaborate to get something off the ground, to develop it for the wider community. So decisions are negotiated. I might go in with a list of 10 things I want. If I get 8, I'm happy. But sometimes it can be a flat no. Make sure that you stay in that space and think, what would it need to look like to get that no to become a yes? And if they say, look, we just haven't got the funds to do that, would you be able to do sponsorship in kind? And if I could get some sponsors to get behind this, well, yeah, let's negotiate that. So don't, just because you get a no does not mean it's a no and that's it. Really dig down deep and find out what is the barrier there. Has something not gone really well in the past and they want to shy away from it? Find out, listen to understand. And then when you enter into that space around community development, it is always think win-win. What's good for them and then what's good for the group that we're representing. And then aim to increase the community's capacity and sustainability with the change that's happening at a local level, because that's where you're going to work. That's who your clients are going to be representative of. You want to be able to refer them to places that are accessible for them, maybe walking distance or somewhere they can drive to easily or get transport to, rather than something that's a long way away. We need to think about the culture, the differing abilities, the ages. We have to really think about who is our community target group that we are pitching this for, and how will the rest of the community view this activity as well. So you've got some research to do to be able to get this off the ground. So there's a couple of great little videos there to work to. So you might be impassioned to work around what social justice and human rights. There's some areas that you could do. But when we're working with a group, we need to make sure that we reach a consensus, which means everybody agrees to move forward. If not, you're not done planning. So you might want to raise awareness, educate and inform people, support them with their human rights. You might be helping a community define its own needs just by simply creating a survey. A development program for you might be, we hear all the time, people say there's nothing to do here on the weekends, unless you're into sport or into one particular area. Let's go and ask everybody, what else would you like to see in your community? That could be your program. And then what are you going to do with that information when you've got it? And who are you going to give that information to? But that could be really valuable information. So it could be around social justice, human rights, coming together for collective action, diversity, change, and access for people to become involved. The principles, though, are very clear. Having an objectivity, so making sure that this is not about your drive. That's your legacy work. That's completely different. And it does have a framework as well. But community development principles are for the wider community, not just your perception of what that would be. That you are impartial, so you're hearing from everybody and you're gathering that information to make sure that you're representative of all. It could be around social justice, self-determination, people having their own voice, diversity and individual differences, and then liberation and democracy. So it can be a call to action as well. So think about what you're going to be doing for your assessment piece when you develop your community program. And the process, are we going to have conflict while we're working through our project? Yes, good, healthy, robust conversations happen when you're planning. Not everybody's going to sit around and agree with each other. It may even be that you start with a group of 8 and it comes down to a group of 4. But the other 4 might say, look, I haven't got the time. they may not be enjoying the process, but when it's completed, they might be really happy to support you. So we keep them in the email tree. We make sure that we don't lose that original connection. But our project needs to be filling the needs of all. So it has to be needs-based for those involved and the wider community, our target group that we're aiming for. What are the gaps, the unmet needs, where people haven't got the same rights or access as others. And it can assume that outsiders are the experts. So when I said that, I wouldn't go to a youth forum if they didn't have young people there, it's because I don't want to be the person making decisions that will impact somebody else directly. I want to make sure that the best person for that information is the person that I'm serving. There may be already something that's running, but there's a gap in that. So you want to strengthen it. So you focus on what are the missing. So someone did recently with this unit, they spoke about housing and homelessness, and it is a nationwide issue, affordable, sustainable housing. There's 3 tiers to homelessness, that primary, secondary, and tertiary around homelessness. If you choose homelessness and housing, your research will find that this person wanted to take that topic and then look at the pets of people who are homeless, who couldn't get access to properties because they had those pets, but they didn't want to be separated from them. So that was a gap. There's plenty of housing programs out there. We're not going to start something that's already existing. You'll never get the funding for it anyway. Why are we duplicating services? We've already throw all this money at this. Why is that not working? It can't be just a pop-up idea. So we identify it and go, what can I do to build on and strengthen that? Oh, they need more volunteers. And that's what I'll do. If I'll find other people who are interested in that. But for this learner from Hader who decided to do housing and homelessness, but they wanted to identify pets, they were able to get a community group together of people who were homeless, and then they went to council, and then they went to the major retailers and said, could we have donation buckets at the front of the store where people could donate buying extra things for pets as well? And then their band of volunteers were able to go out and deliver them to people who were sleeping rough. So that was a great program. And they pitched it, they got the data, they went to those people, and they worked with the stakeholders to engage them in that project. These are happening elsewhere. So you might find an idea that's happening outside of your region that you want to bring into your local area. Have a think about that. Or does it exist already and you did not know that? So have a really good deep dive in, and then have a look at, is that increasing, and will this be a future need? Meaning we may have a gap in the services that we've got available at the moment. So it might be an asset base where it's about infrastructure as well. So it builds on assets that are already found, and rights base. It might be the individual communities having access to basic rights that they're entitled to. But for whatever reason, they don't have the same access as somebody else. So you'll be asked these questions in your assessment work. You'll need to write about that. This will form your framework. So you will have individuals, associations, institutions, physical access, and also connections. So that could be as simple as having a stand in every doctor's surgery of a community mental health program that people just meet together at a local cafe or a park, or a group. There's a group that started up in my region called Brave Brothers, and it's men being able to walk and then talk about mental health connection, because they felt that there was a gap. They identified that there was. We know it's sustainable because the group keeps growing. People who want to be part of and support others, and others who want to be supported. I love that project. And I was at another meeting, and we network and collaborate, and there's a person on that committee, and they said, we just need to get some funding. And I said, oh, let me tell you about how we do the employee giving program. And they're going, oh, we must talk about that. So we pay that forward a lot when we're in the sector. But to do that, you need to understand how this works. It's very hard for them to get any government grants because the government of the day thinks we're already funding mental health. We're already doing lots of those services, but the community do this very well. Communities can do what a government department cannot do. It doesn't get tied up in red tape. In fact, when you look at a community organisation, 80 cents in every dollar will go directly back to the services. The rest is photocopying or getting the website done or making sure that you've got fuel to deliver those things that you're going to deliver, if that's what your program is about. Whereas when you're looking at the public system, it can often be 27 cents in the dollar goes to direct service delivery. So 100% communities do it really well. And they do that well because they've got really clear goals, how to measure what they're doing, and they have connection to their community already. And the people who are working on the team are there to represent all. So we look at agency or empowerment, making sure that everyone feels that they have that right, same rights, access, and a voice, that it's going to continue. That may include some fundraising, that may include donors, that may include coming at this from a business modelling framework, and you need to get both right. So it's not all about the service sector, it's about how do we keep that service running. And to do that, we need dollars. And to make those dollars come in, you have to have good workplace health and safety, risk management strategies, and evidence to support what you are doing, why you are doing it, and to show the improvement, a way to measure that it is successful. So you need to be very transparent. You need to get people to participate. It needs to be non-discriminatory and to be accountable. And the public perception of what you do needs to land softly. So you've got to jump in there. If you don't know what a gaddy pitch is, you will by the time you finish this. So that if you were stuck in an elevator, could you say between first floor and the 12th floor, pitch your idea to someone who could be a potential donor? That's how well you need to be able to think about your program. Hey, we're running a program. It's happening next month. I'd love to be able to send you something. Have you got a card on you? What do you do? This is what we do. Oh, I'm interested. Plant that seed, because that person will go and tell their organisation, and you may get some volunteers from that. So watch these videos in your own time. You'll have planning processes. You'll form a group in your class, or you'll work on your own and you'll bring other people into that. Part of your work is that you're going to be running a meeting in a collaborative space with stakeholders. You work to your strengths. You'll have a focus, an action plan. What resources do you need? Strategies. That could be simply, it's 12 weeks away. This is what we'll do week 1, week 2, week 3, as you do your countdown. And then who will do what? And then evaluate as you're going. Gosh, we thought we were fine there, we're not. Let's come back together, talk about it. We may have to pivot. We may have to drop one area of that. Evaluate how it's going. When you roll it out, then make sure you evaluate again. So we're forever checking, are we on track? Have we moved away from our original idea? So when you're having your planning meetings, you need to be able to facilitate it. You need to get your minutes from those meetings, keep your notes, and then start to find out if you're on track, what the gaps might be to make it happen. You must have an action plan around that. So what do you think you're going to need to get your idea launched out into your community? Who are you going to deliver that to? In what timeline? What do you need? How are you going to get your message out? And what is your goal? So that, what are your objectives? So how will you know you reached your target? So as a group, you'll do a brief plan, but I think we should start thinking even in our very first week about what am I going to do? What project do I want to do? Who are my tribe I'm going to work with in this space? And let's work together. So you will work with your peers in the consultation and engagement process. So then you'll have a think, well, who will we go to? They'll be your key stakeholders, hypothetically or real. It's fine. When you go into your work placement, though, you will be part of someone's program, and you will need to explore a stepping off point from one of those programs, and you'll need to pitch that to clients when you're out there in the workplace and get their feedback. How does this idea sound? What else would you like to see in it? This is all part of your work placement assessment and your theory assessment before you go into work placement, because this is knowledge and skill that you need to be a community sector worker. So you'll need to have clear and concise information, different ways that we're going to communicate, listen to understand and that person feel heard in that group, and then respond to that feedback. Leave that with me and I'll bring that back to the group. If you don't have that information already and have anticipated what some of those questions might be. If you don't know, say, look, I don't know, but I will go looking, and can we come back together again in the meantime, or would you like me to send that out as a group email? How are we going to share our information, both receive it and send that out to keep that connection going with our group, and then report that back to the wider community? You might do that through the media, and then establish relationships that you hope will last for a long time, so that you won't be doing just a one-off, that this is something that you'll see happen in the future. And it might be even like it was for me with Battle of the Bands. That mother's children grew up and they moved away, and she handed over all of the work that she had done. All I had to do was pick that up and then form another crew of people to help me make that happen. And now I don't have to be the main facilitator of that. It gets run by our local council. And so our local council run that under the youth development officer, but the same people who are involved. It doesn't matter who runs that. Ownership is around legacy work. This is about for the wider community, and not having that ownership over it, so that other people can pick that up and work with it. That if you step away from it for whatever reason, it will keep going. That's what sustainability is. So in your role play, sorry, I went a little fast, that'll be around your consultative process. So that's good to do as a mock role play in classes. Have a think about, okay, let's just come together as a team, come up with a plan, and your facilitator might say, okay, this is what I want you to do, is work as a small group. And if you're not going to attend classes live, then come up with a plan. I want to have a group meeting. Who am I going to bring in as part of this? You could have some friends, family, and colleagues who could play the role of stakeholders for you, and you will do a little bit of research, or you might delegate and say, well, could you look into this? And I'll look into this, and I'll look into this. You're going to have to document all of this. You're going to need to provide evidence of where you got your information and your data to be able to say, here is a need, here is why, and this is what it's going to do. It's going to reduce crime, or it's going to increase connection for people who are struggling with mental health issues, or it's going to open up an opportunity and give access to people who are new to our region, or it's going to provide food for people who are homeless, who can't go and get those supplies out to their pets, and it's in a big part of their mental health and well-being, and just people connecting with them in the community as well. Sit there and have a bit of a yarn. So what is it that you're going to do, your project? And then as a group in class, you can discuss it, or the people that you're going to be bringing into your assessment piece, because this isn't something that you can just do on your own. Community development means that there's more than one person that's involved in putting this together, who are going to be your people. So in the second week, you'll start to move into the context. So it's what's the difference between social, political, and economic. We've covered a bit of that in my previous conversation with us, the importance of staying ahead of any changes in the community, roads that might get closed off if you're going to do a public event. It might be that the laws may have changed, being aware of what the legislation is as it's moving. I know I'm based in Queensland, and I know that we've got a recent change of state government. So there's a lot of conversation around a target group that I work closely with. And so I work collaboratively with peak bodies and stakeholders there so that we can have a reasoned collective voice when we're having those discussions. The discussions might seem very reasonable, but the media could pick it up and escalate that. Whereas the messaging around it, we may want to change that messaging because it's not landing softly, or it's creating fear across the wider community, or people are acting out because they're triggered by something that they hear or see in the media. So what are the three pillars of sustainability to make sure that something is there and it's got traction? And then the difference between social and cultural sustainability as well. And culture is not only your country of origin. Think of it as differing abilities, diversity, gender, uh, areas of interest. Cultural sustainability is about the welcoming of differences into our collective, which we refer to as our community. Oh, sorry. So high profile are the social programs that you might do, substance misuse, domestic family violence, youth crime and gangs, and public violence and crime. Low profile might be recreational type facilities, disengagement from school, and if you're a community sector worker, you might be helping families create that support. You may be their support worker, and running a program that engages them into feeling like they're not getting something out of school. What are the options and the alternatives? Improved access to health services, so more seamless referral pathways. And then road safety might be another low profile, but I would kind of put that over in high profile because we have a lot of deaths on our roads, because a lot of people who drive, they go into that alpha brain frequency, but because we're doing a lot on our phones, we're also in alpha brain frequency. So alpha is where you can kind of do something and do something else, where you go, gosh, I didn't even realize I passed that street, I'm almost where I was going. That can be you're there, but your mind is also in another frequency. So when people are driving, their focus isn't there the same way because they go into alpha frequency. It's something that they can do. They can listen to music, they can drive, they can look at the scenery. That's what alpha frequency does. However, we are programmed now a lot to be driving in alpha, and we are on our phones in alpha as well. So that could be that we're removing focus. So I would personally move road safety over to high profile, just to raise that awareness. Now that's a change. It's a change in our culture. It's a change in our society. It's a change in how we communicate as well. So where would you put road safety? You might still think of that as low profile, but because I do a lot of work around people who have addictive behaviours around social media, and also unable to turn their phone off or to have their phone with them at all times, we now start looking at what that addictive type behaviour is around the alpha brain frequency where people are getting their dopamine. So that may be a community program that would not interest you at all, but it does interest me, because I'm aware of that and watching that emerging in our community. Who has oversight over that information, but also what is it taking people away from? Is it a helpful resource as well? So that would be a program that I would run with. Social issues, both high and low profile, areas of concern. Does it have a political context? Well, I spoke about how the government of the day may or may not fund something, and that will determine whether you are able to work in the sector and be funded as a community sector worker. So we do need to have an idea around the political context. We can only back that up if we are meeting the needs of the community. So the economic context is, I find that people who have the least will often donate the most. It's a little bit often can make a huge difference. But have we got our funding going to the things that the community wants it spent on, and how do we have a voice to put that forward? There can be funding cuts, there can be unemployment or underemployment, economic uncertainty, and then pandemic. We know that with COVID, it changed the landscape for everybody. It was different from state to territory. So some states were in lockdown, whereas the state that I live and work on, we were not in lockdown. Some people had family shut out and overseas, which I did. And then we had to take that and lobby really hard to be able to take that to the government and have them represented, because they had already booked their flight and been told by the embassy, no, stay put where you are. And then 18 months was the earliest that they were going to be able to get back. So that took a considered approach, and to be able to diplomatically go to the people that were the decision makers and have them advocate on your own behalf as well. And we can only do that if we are a voice of reason rather than look at blame. So people appreciate that you're hoping that you can help them, but if they cannot, that you're going to find out, what would be another strategy, and then how can we keep those people connected if they're feeling really isolated, stuck in a foreign country. So your pandemic experience may be quite different. So you research and share that with your small group around the local, national, or a global event. COVID may be one of those things for you, but it might also be another matter that you can see an emerging trend and you're curious about it and you would like to make that happen. Or what I'm thinking of is actually happening really well in Canada or England or Norway. Do a little bit of research around that and then explain what you found and why you might want to head down that way and bring that in. That's where we find our evidence-based practices to back something up. To make sure that it needs to be stable economically, politically, environment, socially, and culturally, and withstand a change of government. Regardless, that you're strengthening the community, and it doesn't matter which government is in power around that. You're raising the awareness and let the community be the voice to the representatives. This is really important work and we need to keep this going. So there's a lot of things that happen in our communities that all started with an idea and it got traction. It's like, oh, hadn't even thought about that. So your research will help you find that. So it makes sure that communities can meet the current needs without compromising the future generations. And to have an holistic approach around it, to think of all members in our community, that we work to create balance, that it's not an exclusive clique, that there's some people that cannot get access to that. We have to think of everybody when we're doing community development and community capacity building. So the United Nations has some research around sustainable development goals. There is a link in your learner's guide, which I found actually, I went into it, I like to check them, went into it, and you've got to download it. It says 30 days free trial, but I found another link for you, and I'm hoping that this will be helpful. Just copy and paste this one as it comes through. I'm going to get these slides sent out to you as well as the original ones, or you can write this down if you're watching this recording. And this will take you to a discussion around the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG, which is an acronym often referred to. So the United Nations members adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's your core that you're working with. Like, how will I know I've got it right? Come back to that. It has your goals that address human rights, poverty, hunger, education, healthcare, industry, and infrastructure for all. Australia is a member of the United Nations and we sign off on that treaty. So include goals for sustainable communities. Think beyond the day or the event that you want to run, and how will this be able to be picked up by others in the future? So I want you to watch that. That one will take you there as well. But the link is a good one. So I popped it back in there for you as well. So you'll be able to click on that and that'll take you into that site. So if your learner's guide ever has a link, don't panic, just copy and paste it, put it into your own search engine. In 2024, we had cyber attacks globally. And so if you ever look at media or anything on your phone or on your device, it may be that they'll see your link, trying to link into that as a threat. So if you just copy and paste it and put it into your own search engine, it will take you to that spot. So it's not that the links are outdated, unless it's got something like 2021 in the address. Leave off the date and get the core of that link and then put that in, and you might see an updated version, which is 2025. So all of your resources are put together, all RTOs tap into this. We get ours from EduWorks, which services a lot of RTOs, but your trainers will go in and have a look and make sure that those links are working. If not, please let us know. We'd be happy to help you. But before you do that, just try and copy and paste it and drop it in your own search engine. See if you can get in and access that resource that we've provided for you. So that's the wrap up of the second session, which is where you're about to head into week 2. If you've already started that, our Cert 4 in community services are midway through. Whenever you're getting this recording, it might be that you are brand new to HADA and you're learning about how to navigate your space. You will get a pre-recording, and that's what this is, the full capsule pre-recording for this unit, CHCCDE019. And I'm going to do this full recording for you and walk you through some of your assessment work, but then you can come to live classes. Some classes record, some classes do not. Only record classes if the whole of my class says, Vicky, we want the classes recorded as well as that bigger one that you do. This is for you to keep in your folder and draw on it whenever you need and walk your way through. You'll be tired of hearing me speak, but the content is what I really want you to be able to get out of it. And I'm walking you through the key learnings, the underpinning knowledge, and then the skills to be able to apply that, not only for your assessment work, but for your work as a sector worker. So we'll have a look at working together collaboratively in groups. We've all had great experiences and not so great experiences where you might think, oh gosh, there's always the same people pick up the heavy end of the load. We want to have a think about, do we want people just like us, or do we want differences in that space? Are we challenged by that? Or are we somebody that knows how to work collaboratively, or is conflict a space that we sit because not everybody is going to agree with us, and we can see that as taking that personally rather than seeing as just another way to view that. This is a really important unit because it reflects back on where do we sit in this space, what is known by us about ourselves, not yet known to others, what is that others know about us that we do not yet know about ourselves? What is it that we are yet to discover about others and also about ourselves? What are those hidden things? When we're working in groups, some of this can come up and you go, you know what? This is not the first time I've had that feedback. I'll reflect on that point. Or why is it that whenever I jump into a group, I'm always given these kind of tasks? Whereas underneath, you might be thinking, I'd really like to do something else. So you have to find your voice in that space, but then we have to be listening to understand as well, so that everybody feels heard. Because the work we do on the way to the program that we're working on is very important. That's all our foundation. The program itself, that's just the scaffolding around it. But the foundation that we build, we can duplicate this no matter what project we're going to put out there, and the steps that we follow to make sure that it's going to meet the needs and it will last beyond the time that we spend working on it. So how are we going to make our decisions and do that in a respectful way for everyone that joins the group? We don't become our own barrier or a barrier to others. So we often already are working in groups, families. You might have a study group that you do your role plays with. If you're brand new to HADA, then you will have a culture inside your class. You may have peers that will say, join our WhatsApp group. That's where we all get together and practice role plays and be clients for each other. Or we provide an app for you called Discord, where we can show you how to go in under your qualification and find others and pop up, hey, I'm doing this unit, I'm doing task 2, I need 3 other people to be part of that, and network with them. Do your networking inside your own learner community. This is a core unit. You can jump over to the mental health course, the community services, AOD or youth work, and you'll find other people looking to be doing this one if you've got nobody to do that with. Reach out. Maybe that they've already done this unit and they're paying it forward and happy to work with you, because the more we do, the better we get. And that will give you the edge as a community worker, and also to be ready for when you go in and do your work placement or to be considered for a position. So we have group dynamics that can be personality and character driven, but we need to be able to do a framework as well. People will influence because they want their own views, decision making, the energy when you walk into the room before anyone speaks, the atmosphere, the non-verbal kind of behavior. What's a group norm? Always have cake, I'll be there. Yes, I'm happy to do the work, but I also want to make sure that it's a calm project for me to work on. I already work in fairly heightened, intense first responder roles. So when I'm doing anything in a group, I don't want that to feel like that. So I look for a different kind of energy or atmosphere when I'm in that space as well. Otherwise, we're always in that battle mode. So I look for this to have some balance. And then, of course, what's the content and then the process that we're working with as well. So what are some of the cultural and social factors in group dynamics? Yep. Age and gender, race or culture, class or education. What's the function? What does it take to do the job? What does it take to build and maintain, to keep people in that group and to have a positive professional relationship with them as well? Behaviours that help achieve group harmony, team building, evaluate, testing. Hey, is anything there we're not sure on? And if there is a bit of a problem, mediate your way through. It's like, okay, it's good. We've got some great, strong ideas. I think both things can be true here. How can we bring both into this space? Don't think in absolutes when you're working in a group environment. Work on how can we get a meeting of the minds rather than a judgment of that. needing to be right, if you're doing group work, will definitely see you on the out, and you'll look around and people will have left the group. The purpose of doing this work effectively is to keep the group together, keep the band together as well. And if someone has to leave for whatever external or internal reasons, then you need to be able to make sure that you've done how you start and how you end professionally and positively as well. So our behaviours, if someone's too aggressive or if they're blocking ideas, if they're competing, if they're seeking sympathy, if they're goofing off, drawing attention or withdrawing from that. I'm here, but I'm not going to help. Be collaborative. Community capacity building takes a genuine interest, compassionate inquiry of other people's needs as well. So how do we turn up individually as a group? So write down what you think, how you think you behave in a group situation, and how this might vary from group to group, because we do wear different hats to different occasions. And then write a list of the personality types or behaviours that push your buttons that you find difficult to deal with in a group situation, but just put that to one side for later when you're working together in your group. That helps us write what I call our soft contract. For this to work for me, I need it to have all of these things. And if it won't work for me, it'll have some of these things. If there's a good facilitator of your group, then they'll make sure that everyone's voice is heard. But sometimes you have to be the one who reflects for yourself and go, you know what? There's 10 things on my list of what I really need. I'm okay with 8, but there's only 2. I think I'm the one who's a bad fit for this group rather than the other way around, because everybody around me seems to be okay with it and I may be the only one. So we make our reasons for not being there and without attacking anybody, but it's enough to reflect and go, you know what, it's not for me. It is for them. So you want to be able to exit in a professional way, because you may circle back and some of those people in that group may be in another group further down the line. They may even be a person who interviews you for your next position. So every interaction we have is about building relationships professionally, how we work when we're in a group situation, and people are assessing and evaluating, does it feel safe to have you in that space, the same as what our clients are doing. We can't work with other people if we don't know what makes us work and what makes us tick as well. So what do we like when we go into a group? Reflect on that and bring that back into your space if you're coming into classes for discussion. So the stages of development, yeah, very important. So to be inclusive is a very early stage. If we think about building a team, you can have that storming, then you're forming, that's your inclusive, and then you might have your norming, and then you're performing as well. So with the group development, it has slightly different stages based on people's needs. I want to feel included. I want to be able to have a voice and influence the decision making, and I want to be accepted. I want to be treated respectfully in this space, where I feel like I belong. Who am I and where do I fit in and take my rightful place in a community discussion? Have we created that culture for people? Have we made space? Have we opened that circle up for people to join? I'm very mindful of that when we start a new unit. We will often have new learners. It's important that we connect. It's important that we remember what it's like to be that new person joining a group as well. And we can pass that on when we're working in the community. Just being mindful, having empathy of what that's like. So welcome is a very important part of that. You know that we do acknowledgement to country at the beginning of every one of our classes and our recordings. That's HADA, that's our culture. The same as our culture is about being inclusive. Even though we all work remote, we work in different states, we work in different sectors as the trainers, and yet we're part of a whole group, a team that work together, and we have to contribute to that. We have to work on that to make that happen. So when you come to class, you might be a great listener, but that means that in a group situation, you've gathered information, or you might be comfortable that someone else has spoken and they've represented you well. But I want you to get out of your comfort zone and get comfortable being uncomfortable. Don't sit and stew with something. There's a way to have a voice. So we try and create group discussions and then smaller group discussions in our breakout rooms. Or you can go your own group if you meet up with some peers, or you can go one-on-one with your trainer, or be part of a small study group where once a month you will have just your qualification and an assessor. You can jump in and ask any questions about any unit, any task, or you may decide to do that by email as well. So we do work as part of a group, but your assessment and your qualification is your individual pursuit. So our stages of our group development are our forming, storming, norming, performing, and then mourning. We leave that out. It's like, oh, the band's breaking up. We've had such a great time. That's where sustainability happens. But it might mean that someone gets moved to a different area and they can no longer work in that space. So we need to plan for our exit. We do that a lot when we see young people leaving school. There's some longevity surveys that we might do. For 5 years, they used to phone and ask where was one of my children, what are they doing 12 months after they finished school, did they go on to further education, what career path did they take, and it's interesting. I have 4 children and that was only ever done with one of them, and whether they signed up for that, or that was just a program that they were getting at these young people, the program funded under a university for that period of time, where it was around community capacity building was a unit that they were studying as well. So it's really important to think about the work that you're doing and your planning, the people that you're working with, and then what work are you leaving behind. And when we wrap up a group, how did we feel about that? Did we debrief about that? And could we recreate that again if we wanted to? Or are you happy to go, look, I said I would put 5 years into it and that's it and I'm done. But who are we bringing forward into that space to take our place as well? So here are the stages of forming a group, but these are also the stages of teamwork. There's another video there for you to watch. Tuckman's team development model is great. Please look at all of that as well, how you move from one stage to the next. So the characteristics of effective groups are common sense of purpose. That means we've all like-minded thinking, that we have open communication, everybody gets their opportunity to speak, that we have an identity, who are we, and we can describe that. If you've got someone locked in an elevator for a couple of floors, what's our development planning and maintaining, looking after that? Effective leadership in that space. We do need to facilitate, or we may rotate. So each time you have a meeting, there's 3 of you, you're going to have 3 meetings. Okay, each of us are going to take a turn at hosting that meeting rather than just one person do that at all times. And that we have a fair division of labour, that everybody gets work to do and work to our strengths, of course, or our interest level, so that we're not leaving that for one person to carry the heavy load. And then make sure that we meet regularly and review and evaluate how we're going, where are we up to. Let's revisit where we started at the beginning. Are we there yet? Observe what patterns of communication, understanding how groups work, find out about roles, personalities, what's the norm for that group, and then identify if we've got subgroups, happening underneath that. And then if there's conflict or struggles for leadership, that can get in the way of it as well. So be observant in that space. Group roles, it's good to delegate. So, but it's also good to be aware of what could be disruptive as well. So an informal role could be someone who is always the funny person in a group or the joker. Hierarchy could be power relationships. It could be, I know when I'm working with council, I know that I'm always answerable to another entity, but it might be a few of us. So we usually hand it over to council, hold the meetings in their place, but we will be people from the other sector. We'll be brought in for a reason and a purpose. I've been in some very effective groups where we've achieved what we set out to achieve, but I've also been in some really horrific ones where some people wanted to just capture all the ideas and then take credit for that themselves. So, which can be devastating for some organisations, where they can have lots of organisations turn up to get behind a project, get the funding, and then the people who coordinated it to be actually ruled out of that, and one other group pick that up and run with it. So, you know, have a think about what your values and principles are when you step into that space as well. And there's some people it could be, look, I'm going because it's social. It's a good chance to catch up with some people, and I'm perfectly okay. Whoever runs this, I just like to be kept in the loop about what's there. Could be really helpful for my clients. That might be how you approach it. There might be some formal ones where you'll have like a secretary and the treasurer, where minutes have to go out as well. So delegate what roles. Can we have someone who can take notes for us, scribe? We do that when we have our live classes, send people into a breakout room. You'll have a project that you've got to work on, and then you'll have a spokesperson come back and they will speak, but they'll make sure that they did represent those in the breakout room as well, writing down the key points. You might have someone who scribes, gets all of that information there, top 5 points, and then I might say, if I'm running that class, what was an unexpected learning that came out of that time that you spent together? What was your aha moment there? So we get more from a group, often more than what we originally went in for. So know what your task is to get the job done and break that down, and the relationships. Focus on relationships with others and collaboration. And so that way you make sure that the group just runs smoothly, gets why are we here? Why are we talking? What is it that we've come together for? Let's go. So in your group development, refer to your learner's guide. There is an activity 3B. When you're starting on your project, you need to be working with the group. So gather people from classes, go to Discord or your families and friends and say, I've got to do this discussion, and I want to have a think about what its important group dynamics, and ask everyone in the group what their experience is, and then pick a topic that you would like to discuss just for the purpose of it. It doesn't really matter. It could be the price of bread. It's not about the topic as much as it is about the process, the stages of group development. But pick something that's meaningful. If you already know what you're going to do your project on and your program on, that you want to roll out into the community and do your presentation on, then grab those people and make it about that. Or if you're in classes, then do this as part of your breakout room. So the leadership is by design, and it makes groups perform more effectively by making sure that you're bringing out the skills and potential of all members in your group. So we spoke about how we facilitate a group to be non-judgmental. There's room for everyone, and open the circle wider. So even in the workplace, yes, people expect that I will provide leadership as their regional manager. However, it's very autonomous, our roles. So we have trust, and we've developed that, make sure the resources there are available, that we are supportive to the people on our team. However, someone will do it differently to us, and we want that. There's room for all different types of people in groups and in teams in the workplace as well. So we can learn from others. If we're really strong in one area, but someone is stronger in another, we can actually learn a lot by that informal mentoring or some shadow work around that as well. So sometimes being part of a group, it's like, wow, I got so much out of that group. I almost forgot why we were coming together. It was such an amazing personal and professional development opportunity. That's how I would be approaching this unit with that lens. So look at, how do you model and encourage respectful and productive communication? Be that balanced person there. Keep the group on subject and focused, and then respond to what the group wants while staying focused on the purpose that the group collectively decided, not our individual pursuit in that space. And then clarify. If you're not sure, ask someone to break that down for you and summarize. A good facilitator will start, this is why we're here, do the body of work, and look, this is what we've been able to achieve today. We do that in our role plays. We start with, this is the unit that I'm working on. Here is the client, and they're presenting issues. We do that work, our intentional interviewing and our motivational questioning. We might be creating an individual plan. And then at the end of our role play, we go, well, this is what we've covered today. I think we've done some really good work. And this is when I'd like us to come back together again. We're doing this individually as workers, but we also need to apply that in a group situation. So we want to encourage ideas, support the group to just bring those options down so that you come to a decision, because you've got to make some, and you've got a timeline and a budget that you're usually working to, and define or call proposals to move things forward. Like, where are we with this? Can we just get a show of hands? So we move forward here. Do we need some more discussion around that? You can talk and talk and talk rather than actually get that job done. And then encourage and evaluate, help the group learn so that the future meetings go well. That's a big part of the energy that you take into that space. Make sure that you speak to everybody in the group and that you listen to what everyone's got to say. A good facilitator will just say, I just want to go around the room, make sure that I've got everyone. Are we on track? Is there something there that you think you'd like to discuss more today, or maybe have put on our agenda for next time? If you like, you can contact me by email in between. We could do it like that. Reach a consensus or majority rules, or do you vote? How do you get to that decision? I think I've only ever worked in one group where, oh, it's just, I know we were all very like-minded thinking, but I think our facilitator, our connection to council, was the mayor's executive officer. She was just amazing, dynamic, pleasant, very passionate, extremely loyal, committed to the project, and very welcoming to all of us, kept us all in the loop. There were no meetings outside of the meeting. Everybody got that information at the same time. It was great. And then she worked on collaborating and strengthening just the connections of the people that she thought would be the ones that would be most important to run the very first youth scholarship program for disadvantaged youth, to give them funds to be able to help with their studies. That was her objective, and she achieved that. Council got behind it, and it was very successful. Whether or not a change of government continues to do that, or they may continue to do that, but change the name of what they're doing, because it's a different government, they want to put a different slant on that. But does that really matter? No, we don't have ownership over that. Sometimes we plan for something to happen annually, but it really does depend on the decision makers, and we aren't always that. So if you've got conflict, it may be a conflict of interest. We need to declare that. That means that you may benefit directly or indirectly, and you need to be very transparent. It could be something where the mood is changing and the conflict develops. It could be that we perceive that there's a conflict when there isn't really. And there could be bad media coverage where there's controversy around it. So we need to make sure that we are risk managing all of that, prepare and plan for the worst. And if you don't need it, absolutely fantastic. But be aware of those little nuances that are sitting there, and be proactive in making sure that you're thinking win-win and then building on that. This doesn't happen accidentally. Sometimes we've got to do some work. Like I said, it can be very rare to have this go very smoothly, but I think it usually comes down with someone who's got good oversight, a good facilitator in that space. So you need to prevent things to avoid them from happening in the first place, to manage it. So be prepared to listen to different views. I hear you, understand. I can see where you're coming from there. That can be enough sometimes, but then you need to adjust, make that adjustment. What would it look like if it was more comfortable for you? Get them to articulate that. So everyone's contribution to a discussion is respected and valued. So I'm comfortable if people want to have a bit of a fiery, robust discussion. That'll be the time where I will sit back and I will listen, unless it's work for me and I step into that space and I'm an advocate or a support worker, then I'm working for the client. So and then a willingness to amend, like make that adjustment to what would it look like if we did this? Would that better fit where you think we need to be with this? How does everyone feel about that? Yeah, good with that. Okay, so just be open and create a culture where there's room for changing that direction, making sure that you're bringing people forward with you. Questions, frame them in a positive way rather than a judgmental. Make sure that they're encouraging and that people get to elaborate. Could you explain that a little more for us? So would you be meaning this? And if they go, well, no, not really that, it's this, just, oh, okay, stay with it until you're clear on that. If the person isn't able to articulate that as well as perhaps others may be able to, and then build on ideas and identify areas of common ground. Like I like to do a bit of a checkup from the neck up in group work that I'm working on for a while. So I will just ask everyone, look, just tell me where you're up to on a scale of 1 to 10. And is that internal? Can we do something about it? Is it external? Can we help you manage that? Either way. So I find when I'm working in a group or in a team, it's either people can't or they won't. So if they can't, we will help them to be able to make that happen. And if they won't, we need to better understand what it is that's getting in the way of that. Either way, we're coming from a place of service, where we're coming out of that space of non-judgment as well. And we want to create a harmonious atmosphere. If you've got guidelines, there's some areas that are absolutely not negotiable. You need to hold that professional guideline and not have someone influence you to move that. That'll sit around what standards are, what the law says, legislation, don't cut corners. If you know that there's a conflict of interest that hasn't been declared, that's your ethical dilemma to raise that, and how you raise that in the most sensitive way that you possibly can, rather than spotlight someone in that space. But if someone steps over a guideline, just say, that's something that we can't do. That's not up for discussion. That is actually the law as it stands. And council are very good at doing that when we're in that space, but so are other government agencies as well. So some conflict is difficult to resolve. And there's a few stepping off points. That's why it may not work. Don't think you've got to fix everything. Sometimes you've got to leave that for people to process for themselves, but we leave that to be a safe, soft place to land, and that it's okay for that person to re-enter into that space and leave that behind, rather than put a full stop to it and go, okay, give people the benefit of the doubt. Today you're having a rough day. I can see that. Check in with them. Are you okay? I could see that it was actually getting pretty heated the other day. Is there something I can do for you there? And just listen so the other person feels heard, even if they decide to leave. So there's positives and negatives in a conflict situation. So, you know, how do you know if the conflict has been positive or negative, constructive or destructive, destabilizing to your group? Okay, so in this final part of the stages, this is about advocacy and lobbying, which I have discussed throughout that. So rather than go through our slides, slide by slide, I want you to view this in your own time. And most of your work will be done in classes, in a group, and reflect on these slides yourself. But the fourth part of this is about what are some of the, how do you overcome some of the disadvantages and advantages? You're going to focus on that in your plan. How to set a framework to make sure you've got social justice, human rights, empowerment, participation and inclusion. I've covered some of those areas already. And then conducting research methods to how are we going? We check inside our group along the way, and we might ask for surveys from people who participate in the program. Please give us some feedback. We'd love to hear what you think we did well and what we could do differently. And then lobbying, taking that to your council or your state member or your federal member. And how is that different to advocacy work? Advocacy work is we act on the first person's behalf. So we are representing the client, whereas lobbying is we're representing a lot of voices, and they've nominated that we will be the ones that take that forward. It may be a group, it may be you as a single person, but you're going in with a clear vision, representative of others as well. So there's a subtle difference between lobbying, because you're going after and getting something. Advocacy is about being the voice on behalf of that first party, and you act on their behalf based on the authority that they have given you. Otherwise, we're support workers, and we walk beside our clients individually and our clients in a community setting, depending on the scope of our role. So I hope you enjoyed this unit. It's a great one. Now I'm going to move us over into, let's have a look at some of the assessments that you're going to be doing with this unit, and how we're going to bring that into an action plan for you, how we're going to work together in this recording as I break down what those tasks are, and then how we're going to assess you, what is it, the work that you're going to do, and how you're going to approach this. Stay tuned. This is going to be the assessment part of our recording for the unit CHCCDE019, work within a community development framework. So there are two tasks attached to this. I wanted to just move this out of our way. So in the back of our accelerator, where you also work in that space, there's going to be a quiz, task 1 of 2 for this unit. There's going to be your project and the role play that you're going to be doing, which is task 2 of 2. And then this one here is what your assessor is going to mark you on. I wanted to walk us through each of those as well. It runs for 3 weeks, the classes, and usually in the final week, we would do our presentations or our role plays if that's the way the facilitator wants to go. So it's 3 weeks where you've got 3 weeks to work on this. If you are tracking with your studies and you come to classes, then in week 1, you would want to tackle task 1. Week 2, you would tackle task 2, and week 3, you would tackle task 3. Now, you can go faster or slower than that, but the classes will only offer that when they are doing that unit, not afterwards. So not all role plays are assessor-led. Some you do on your own without the assessor. Your assessor and your instructions will tell you if that is something that, one, you can do in class, because you've got peers there already and your assessor is there to capture the recording. But that does not mean the assessor is marking you, that they may capture that, they may give you some feedback, and you'll upload that once it's converted to YouTube, and another assessor will view that. If you are doing your role plays in classes, make sure you go back through that and you identify what time of the recording. So if the role play is at 1 hour and 10 minutes to 1 hour and 25 minutes, you're part of that. Make sure that you put in your comments when you do your submission and upload your evidence that I am at this time and this time. So when you're doing classwork, you might say, look, my name is whatever your enrolment name is. I'm just grabbing my ID. But then you might also say, my name is. So you're showing your ID, or you may state my student ID number with HADA is, and provide that. You can state that number, that is identifying you. So when you're doing your written work, sorry, that's just my lanyard I take with me. So we do ID 1 because we need to know it's your work. When you do your academic writing, you sign off, this is my own work. Have we ever had people get someone else do their role plays? Yes, we have. So you are submitting your work as your own work. You will have your name, your full name that you are enrolled on your screen when you're on camera. So I have my full name there, which is Vicky Hannah. It also says the First Nation land I live and work on, but it needs to be your enrolled name. So if you work to another name, then you can have that there and make sure that you've got your full name in brackets, and you change that on your screen, or you say my enrolled name with HADA and you state what that is. I will be doing my role play. The project that I have chosen from CHCCDE019 is this, and the people that I have working with me are here today. And then you'll jump straight in. You'll talk about your project, and your instructions for that are there on how you worked in that community collaborative process. That is the recording that you will do, or you will do this with your peers in your own time and submit that work. So your trainer or who's facilitating your class may only do mock role plays with you. Great, let's do a practice run of what that would be like. Guide you, give you some feedback, and get some feedback from your peers so that you've got some peer review. It's a great way to collaborate and find other people to work with as well. So what I wanted to do is just take you to, let's have a look at task 1, our quiz. Over here, have a look at preview. This is where I do all my adjustments. So any feedback that you want to give me, if there's an error or something, please make sure that you let our learner support officers know. You can see in my background that I've got their email address, but I'll guide you to that towards the end. And here we have 14 questions in quiz, task 1. So it's got the unit code and it is task 1 of 2, your online quiz. So to start with, it is match the aspects of asset-based community, A, B, C, and D. We spoke about that in your slides, and it's sitting in your learner's guide. So you'll need to, when you get your learner's guide, download that. Open up a folder for every unit that you're studying with. So if you're new to HADA, I encourage you to open up a folder for the qualification that you're doing. If you're doing a certificate 4, you will have 15 to 17 units that you will do, plus units that you will do of assessment in work placement, except for AOD. They don't do work placement. Or if you're doing diploma level, you'll have 21 units that you will do, plus you will do 7 or 8 units when you're in work placement as well. So it's very important that you keep your information, because this is yours to keep as a learner with HADA. So download your learner's guide and put that into your folder so you can work with that offline at any time. I download it because I can do a search and I can put a question in, and I can copy and paste it into my search in my learner's guide, and it'll take me to that learner's guide where that information is. That's just a tip that you might find helpful as well. If you're going to do research, make sure that you go to a credible, reliable source, but the information is sitting in your learner's guide, and sometimes we'll direct you to look elsewhere. About 75% of your qualification you will get from our resources, coming to class discussion, and the information that you get. However, 25% will be your own research. This is one of those units that requires you to go into some data. The Australian Bureau of Statistics says that in my local area, unemployment is this percentage, and the national average is this percentage. So you're choosing your program because you want to improve that state, or it's an unmet need, or it's a gap in your community. So you'll need to back up whatever you've got with credible data. Task 1 is about just unpacking some of the key learnings that we've had. So you will need to select, so it's got, rather than relying on external organisations and resources, an ABCD approach, or assets-based approach, would emphasise the importance of local solutions that are driven by the community. This may involve creating community-led initiatives and programs that address local issues and challenges. And it will ask you to select one of those answers will be correct. And you'll do the same with each of them. Now, it's automatically marked, that one, in the system. So that is auto-marked. If you've got something incorrect, then it will automatically mark it incorrect. You'll submit it, and an assessor on the other end, and we've got several assessors that are in the marking space. We aim for 48 hours, and our goal is 24 hours to get back to you during working days. So just of late, if there's public holidays, but know that 2 days from midnight Friday till 7 a.m. on Monday morning, that we will not have people marking on the weekend. So that does sort of change it. You might do a lot of your study on the weekend. So just allow that time. For the top of the list of the wait list is where we do our marking of our assessment. And the assessors are people who are qualified to mark your assessment as well. So we work on different rosters. I try and spend an hour in there every day that I'm working, so that I'm consistently over that space. But if you're stuck on a question and you're not sure, make sure that you send that information to the learner support officers at their email, lso@hadainstitute.edu.au, or send it also to your trainer and just say, look, I'm stuck on task 1 of 2. I'm fine. I think I've got everything right, but question 7, I'm stuck with that. Be really specific when you ask your question, and they'll guide you on that. I do that. I teach 3 classes, 3 different quals every week. I'm really happy to do that for anyone from classes, but because I work every day for HADA, then sometimes the learner support officers, if it's a question that needs trainers' eyes over it, as a program manager, they'll say, Vicky, can you help me with this one? And just to unpack it, I'll email and I'll send it out. But make sure your very first point of contact is your learner support officers, your LSOs. So we've got a whole team there, and they are there till 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, who are there to be able to help. So each of them work with about about 150 inquiries every day. We are a large community of learners, but if you haven't heard for back within 48 hours, then just flag it again. Please do that. We welcome and appreciate that as well. So these questions are about testing your knowledge, explain the principles and practices of community development work that can be employed to address structural disadvantage and inequality within a community. So that might be wheelchair users can't access all pathways. Could be something like that. When you see a question like this, where it's got principles and practices, make sure that you answer that under principles and then give your explanation and practices, because there's two parts to that question. So it's important that if you read that question carefully, and then break the question down and answer that. So where it's got disadvantage and inequality within a community, they want you to speak to both of those and both of those in your answer. So sometimes you might get some feedback that's going, great start, I'm looking for, and your assessor will ask for a little bit more information, expand on that. The answer is usually sitting right there in the question. So I like to just go through everything and read it first. So you can save your answers on the bottom of your screen there. If you save your answer, it allows you to go over to your next question. Okay. If you submit and you haven't answered everything, absolutely no drama whatsoever. It'll sit on the wait list. Someone will say, oh, it appears that you have missed a couple of questions. We can't return that to you until an assessor has seen that, and there's no penalty for how many times that you attempt your assessment. You will get 3 attempts, and if we need to open up more, we will. But we're hoping that the feedback we give you will help you the next time around. So read the feedback that your assessors leave for you. It will guide you. You might get out of these 14 questions, 12 correct, and only 2 need redoing. It'll save your answers, the 12 that are correct, and it will guide you back over to the 2 with some feedback. So I hope you find that helpful. Let me just change our page. A little slow. Here we are. So as I said, there is only 2. And then, of course, there is an observation checklist that is for the assessors, but I want to share that with you as well. It's going to bring that up for us. So it's a little slow today. Pop that in preview so I can share my screen. There we go. No, it took me straight back to the last one, task 1. I'm chasing task 2. Not loving that. So I think what I might do is, excuse my tech here. Just bear with me for a moment and I'll stop sharing. See if I can bring that space up for us again out of Accelerate, which is your porthole as well as mine. I just have a slightly different view. Okay. Okay, that looks a little bit better. All right. So just over to this area here. So we have 4 parts to this. You will know you're working on the correct unit assessment. So the assessment task is referred to as T2 of 2. So that means that there are only 2 assessments. And this one is the project and the role play. So bring this up. Here is an overview. So if you're new to HADA, you're going to get a lot of your other resources from your simulated workplace. Your workplace, and you will be working for, hypothetically, an organisation called First Access. And with every organisation, they have their own systems, their own policies and procedures, their own staff, and some service models about what does that organisation offer. So here, your link will take you to First Access. You'll have a username and you will have a password. So the username is HADA Institute, 2 words, and then password is HADA with a capital H, and all one word. HADA 123456 is your password. Now, because you will use this in a certificate for about 70 times, in a diploma about 100 times, you will go to that. I recommend that you copy and paste that information and place it on a Word document and keep it in your qualification folder of your important documents that you're going to utilize many times over. Email templates, might be workplace health and safety policy. Save those virtually so that you can access them. Case plans, consent forms, referral forms, email templates, minute templates for meetings. It'll ask you for different documents to work with. It'll give you the code of them as well. But otherwise, just go in each time and use the link where you're required to. It will have the link at the first part of your instructions. Okay. So with the summary, you've got 3 parts. The first part, part A, is you're required to research and analyse the needs and priorities of one particular community group to develop a community development plan. That's what we've been talking about in our session. Part B, you will be observed participating in a role play to confirm you can perform to industry standards and expectations. You're required to work with a small community representative group to discuss your plan that you want to roll out and identify if it addresses the priorities. So you are to listen to individual stakeholders and their contributions and take that on board and plan strategies to make sure that priorities of the stakeholders are addressed in the forming of your final plan. You will be the one who facilitates that meeting. You'll be asking those questions. You'll be collaborative in that space. You'll be able to clarify any questions that they have if they've got queries, any conflict that might be sitting around that as well. And the people who sit in that space need to be as authentic as they can. I encourage you to utilize your peers from class for this, and you can work on this assessment as a group. You could each be after a completely different topic, or you may all choose the same topic, but you'll be assessed on your own individual work. So it'll be in your words, your way, but you might go, look, we're all really interested in this one topic. We might work together and have that collective wisdom. That's in the true essence of community collaboration. You may go that way, but you don't have to. You can do this on your own and source other people and say, put the hat on of a local government council. What might be some of the objections that they have? And then document how you went around it. But you are going to make sure that you deliver this in front of other people, and I need everybody on screen, okay? Because I want to watch for that atmosphere, the non-verbal cues when you're delivering this. So in part A, you will need the First Access have how they want you to speak and represent First Access. So there's a general blurb on the homepage. So make sure you go to your First Access site. About Us is your vision, mission, and values. So you're a worker at First Access who is planning to deliver this. You'll need a device, a computer that can do Word, not just on your phone. You'll have access to the internet, and you'll need to be able to send email software out as well to be able to upload your information. And you'll need to have something like Microsoft Word or a similar program to be writing your project, because you're going to upload that as your attachment. You're going to write your program. Access to industry relevant workplace or a simulated workplace environment. So in the first part of the recording, I set up a meeting room with a round table where I could work collaboratively with the community. For this part of it around assessment, I've also set up a professional setting virtually. So I've got the Hayter Institute one behind me. You can pick different virtual backgrounds. If you go to the bottom of your screen where you've got your camera icon, there's an arrow that points up. Click on that and then have a look at what's there in stock pictures. Otherwise, go and Google some pictures and then save them and put them into your pictures folder on your device, and then add that to your recording space so that you can put that up as your background. Try and set the scene. For every role play you do, either have a blank wall and describe the setting that you're in, or put a virtual background. Some people like to talk with clients outdoors, so they do an outdoor setting, but they speak to that. So it's like, oh, we're going to have our community meeting as a picnic in the park. We decided the weather's beautiful. It's all accessibility there, and it's out in our community. It's also one of the locations we think we would like to run our program. So we might have our meeting there. So you'll pick something that either simulates that, or you'll describe where you are as well. So it asks for this in your instructions, and we need to see that in your recordings. So a simulated workplace environment, which includes chairs for the community members or seating arrangements for them. So you'll need to really think about that as well. And we want to see that those people are there, even if it's virtually. So when you're recording, make sure you record to your own device and that you have gallery, because gallery, if you're using Zoom, you get 40 minutes free with Zoom. Then you can have everybody on the screen at the same time, provided you record to your own device, not to cloud. That's why when you get recordings from classes, if there's a few people, only one person comes on screen because it's in cloud. Okay, we don't record them to our own devices. Hayter are very strict on our guidelines with privacy and confidentiality. Yours. So we make sure that we've got security around that, and that only those people who are enrolled will be able to open up the recording that we provide for you. If we do a role play for you, we'll not send it to you in cloud, but it will be gone in 28 days. So you need to make sure that you have got everything ready and organised and uploaded, ready to be assessed when you're booking in an assessor-led one. So part B is about making sure you've read your duty of care policy and procedure. That's on your First Access website, and that's the name of the policy and procedure, HS3, or just put in the search bar, duty of care policy and procedure. It'll take you there and you'll see which one. Access to the community development plan, which you created in part A, and then access to 3 participants to play the role of the community members. We give you some instructions for them as well. Part C is access to a workplace or a simulated environment, again, which includes chairs and a table. All of your devices, and you need to have that community development plan from part A. So you've got part A, you've developed the plan. Part B is that you're having the consultative process. If you're going to make any adjustments based on that feedback, then when you bring it into part C, it will be because you've got the plan from part A modified if you needed to, strengthened and built upon from the work that you did with everybody in Part B. You make that adjustment, and to complete that task in your own time. And I like to see 3 weeks. If it's a 3-week session, I like to see assessments done 3 weeks after the very last session. That would be the longest that I would want to see. Know that when you're doing your assessments, if it's got role plays, you are never going to see that as completed until you have completed your role plays. So there's greater guidance if you do task 1, then task 2, if there's a task 3, and then move it into even if there's a task 4. Task 1 is your foundation, leads you into the next task, and then that leads you into the next task. If you leave your role plays, then you will only have a certain number of units that are opened up for you. A lot of these do on your own without an assessor and having peers. If you don't take action and put that plan into place for yourself, you may end up with all of your role plays sitting there towards the end, and none of those units will be complete. You'll get no credit for those if you haven't completed your role plays. And all up, there's about 25 hours in a Cert 4, about 35 hours in a diploma level. So you'll never get an assessor who can carve out a full week just to work with one learner for that. So we encourage you to do these in class when you can. Communicate and connect with your peers. And if you're an independent learner who cannot make it to class because of competing priorities, or you want to fast track this, you will find peers in our Discord app as well. Your learner support officers will guide you there. Okay. So there's 3 parts to that. The scenario and the role play instructions, the link is there. You'll have someone who's your direct manager, and you'll be speaking to them about your goals. That particular one will run for 10 minutes as well. So make sure that you read through all of your instructions with your work. And Part B, again, separate role play instructions. That's when you're working collaboratively with the community members. And it tells you during the role play, your assessor will be looking to see that you can manage and facilitate a discussion and engage people in that process. This is what we mark you on. And we tell you this is what we're going to mark you on. Ensure that your work reflects and meets the duty of care responsibilities. Refer to your duty of care policy and procedure. So we never wing it when we come into role plays. We can tell if it's preparation and planning has been put in place. And then you need to have studied that, work with your peers, really know your work so that you can speak about your work in this particular unit for this particular one in your group work. Okay, so that's wrapping up the 2 tasks, our key learnings that we have as well. And I hope you enjoy doing this unit. And if you have already completed the unit, you may want to support some peers who are also looking for other people to be able to do this. So go to Discord. Even if you've done it before, you may want to be a member who's a community member and sit in that space and help somebody do their work. The more you do, the more role plays you do, the better practitioner you will be in that sector, so that you can speak with confidence about the work that you are doing in the workplace, or you would like to do if you're new and transferring from one area out into this sector. So I hope you enjoyed this. This is the core of every organisation. We all have a framework, we all have a model, we all have a service agreement that our funding bodies have charged us with. We are all governed by certain legislations, and we need to strengthen our access, working collaboratively in the community. 1, for the program, but 2, to get a good understanding of what's available in your local area, so that when a client comes in and says, look, I'm new to town, I've lost my partner, I'm feeling really isolated, I'm just looking for some company, what might be available. They may present with anxiety and depression, but if they're isolated, as we're starting to work with our client, it might be, what can I do for their social, emotional, psychological well-being? And it could very easily sit with the program, something like Menshed. So look about what's in your area, what you would like to do and offer. It may be an event, it may be a program that runs for 12 months, once a month. It might be something that runs for 6 weeks, or it may be a one-off picnic that you do in the community. But the collaborative process is where you're going to fine-tune that as well. So you're being assessed on the idea, and then the building of that, the planning of that, the adjusting of that, and then the funding of that, and then being able to pitch that to stakeholders, community members, and also to your organisation, so that they go, you know what, we'll get behind this, we'll fund what you're doing. Okay, so enjoy this unit. Please reach out to our learner support officers. So that's an lowercase L, LSO for learner support officer at haiderinstitute.edu.au. Thanks everyone for joining me.